Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the pleb sites. We are diving into the numbers. Nico, let's do it.
Number time! Brought to you by Nodl. Nodl makes some of the best Bitcoin nodes, like the Nodl Dojo. I'm holding it in my hand. It's made of metal. It's high quality. Remember, guys, if you don't run your own Bitcoin node, you are using someone else's. So take your privacy seriously. Run your own Bitcoin node, like the Nodl Dojo. Get one today.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 732,458. The Bitcoin price, 40,580. Chain rewrite days, 741. Total public lightning capacity, 3,655.42. Moscow time, 2465. Blocks to the halvening, 107,542. And the Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samurai Whirlpool is a coin join or collaborative spend. It is not a mixing service. And the unspent capacity in that pool is 4,517.16 BTC, Nico. The numbers, we're experiencing a little bit of a pump here during our recording. It's a fake pump, but it's a pump nonetheless. It's just Bitcoin showing that it's alive. You know, it's like the little heartbeat.
It's alive. It's alive.
I'm here.
That is what it's showing. I'm not dead yet. But anyways, we got someone in the comments, Phil, and you know I always like to read them. Anyways, let me put it gallery view. Let me start reading this comment. It was by someone called Crypto Kid. And he says, wrong. Even when your SPV wallet uses someone else's node, the requests use a Bloom filter, so the node does not see your transaction nor your balances. Now, here's the thing. Whether you're using a Bloom filter or whatever, Crypto Kid, the matter of fact is that in order for you to check your Bitcoin balances, right? Guess what? You have to send your addresses corresponding to the addresses that you're sending to them. How else would they check your balances, right? Now, here's the thing. Just by having the address, right, of the addresses that you request to their node to send them back to you, just by having those addresses, you could track every single transaction that you have done from that address. You're sending your addresses to someone else's node. They can imply from that those addresses obviously belong to you, and they can also see which IP you're coming from unless you're using a VPN. The point is, you should not be doxing your pub files or your addresses to anybody, which is exactly why you should be running your own goddamn Bitcoin node. Anyways, and it also gives you voting power, right? Because back in the day, back in 2017, when the whole block wars thing was happening, part of the reason that us plebs were able to win the block size war was because enough people were running their own nodes and therefore got to decide which software to run and which software not to run. We all know how that ended up, right? Bitcoin Cash lost, Bitcoin SV lost, and Bitcoin won. So running your own node not only gives you voting power, it also gives you sovereignty and control over your own privacy, your own wealth. It lets you be your own bank. If you're using someone else's, you're at the behest of that person. So, Crypto Kid, I think you're wrong, bro. But anyways, feel free to comment on this video and tell me what you think. Phil?
Yeah, I can appreciate his comment. I don't think that, you're wrong. But I think that the point here is that regardless of the privacy measures that you take, you shouldn't be advocating for using someone else's node. Like, using someone else's node in order to check your Bitcoin or to, do any transactions or to be able to verify any transactions, it's just, that's something that you should only do if you really have no choice. That's why that solution exists, right? It is a solution, but in no way, shape, or form Is it a, like an argument point to say, oh, well, because I'm using these privacy tools, it's okay that I'm connecting to someone else's node to do all of my quote unquote Bitcoining. I just don't, I can't buy that. So I can appreciate his comments about the privacy, but never. I mean, look, you should be running your own node. There is like full stop.
You're still doxing. You're still doxing those addresses. Those addresses, you have to send it to another node which has a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain in order for them to tell you what the balance of those corresponding addresses are. Right? That's just a matter of fact. Right? So do you want people having that information where if you run your own node, no one knows anything? No one knows what your balances are. No one knows, who you're transacting with. Because think about it. If someone has your address, they could essentially track what that address does, right? So that's what I mean by tracking transactions. You should always run your own node. You could either build one or you could buy one that's already made, like the Nodl. It's a great one. Phil and I have both used it ourselves. But anyways, Phil, do we have enough time for a number? No. I think that was a whole good segment. We went, I don't know.
Okay, we could save it. Save it for tomorrow.
I don't know if we went either too short or too long. Anyways, let me show this real quick, but we'll rush through this, Phil. Okay, so check this out. Distribution of Lightning payments volume in 2022. The majority were private payments. That's absolutely awesome. Trading / deposit withdrawals. Honestly, I hope that goes up. And merchant payments and gift cards, really, really cool. And last one, right? Payment volume and payment count on the Lightning Network. And it continues to do what we've been saying, 410% year-over-year growth. Lightning Network is going parabolic. So the price might be stuck in time like it is today, but in the background, a lot of big things are happening. Phil, very quickly, what are your thoughts?
Dude, that just made me super bullish. Okay, look, just very quickly, this is Signal, okay? While everybody's paying attention to the noise, everyone's watching the political scene, the wars, the interest rates, oh my gosh, the economy, guess what? The Lightning Network is continually growing, okay? So people are putting their liquidity at work, and they're building apps on Lightning. So,
bullish!
I'm a happy camper.
Anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. Look, we're sitting at 40K. We're all stacking. I don't think it really makes a difference. 20K, 60K, we're stacking. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation, a stacking app by Bitcoiners. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
When we all think of fairy tales, usually we think of some really nostalgic time. We think of something wonderful. But you know what? This shitcoin, this platform, just gave us something to think about, okay? I remember really enjoying Jack and the Beanstalk when I used to hear that story as a kid. Unfortunately, I'm sure it didn't end in a rug pull, though. I don't remember the rug pull at the end of the story. I remember Jack cuts down the beanstalk and becomes the hero and lives happily ever after. But in this case, something went wrong. Anyways, let's dive into it. We got tagged by so many people. We got tagged by IC the Oceanaut. We got tagged by Hans Films. Tagged by a whole bunch of plebs. Anyways, really appreciate it, guys. Let's dive into what happened to the Beanstalk Farms protocol. All right, so this is a tweet storm from Frank Researcher. The new popular Beanstalk Farms protocol lost 181 million in today's exploit, but the attacker only gained 76 million. I'm also reading 80 million, so just giving everybody a heads up that it's approximates. Let's figure out what happened. Now, before I dive into this, I just want to let you know almost everybody, I'd say 99% of the people that watch this are Bitcoin only, and I know that there's some that do shitcoin, but I apologize for the brain melting that is about to happen. Okay? Yeah, because there's a reason why we don't waste our time shitcoining. There's a reason why we call it a casino and a clown circus and all this stuff. Let's dive into it. All right, the main protocol contract has been completely emptied. User funds have been withdrawn. 36 million Bean, 0.54 ETH Bean Uni V2 LP tokens, 33 million in ETH and 32 million in Bean, 79.2 million in Bean 3 CRVF curve tokens, 1.6 million Bean L USD curve LP tokens. Okay. The exploiter was funded from the Synapse Protocol bridge. After that, they created the BIP-18 proposal to donate 250k bean to Ukraine, which was faked before execution. Okay, so people are reading somewhere that this attacker donated to Ukraine. That was never true. It never actually went through. Okay. They used a flash loan. Once again, right? We've mentioned the flash loans in almost every single one of our exploits. What a shock. They used a flash loan to get 350 million DAI, 500 million USDC, and 150 million USDT from Aave, 32 million Bean from Uniswap2, and 11.6 million LUSD from SushiSwap. So they just used all the platforms and just cleaned out as much as they could. Further, they deployed and voted for a fake BIP-18 that moved all the funds from the protocol contract to the exploiter. The next step was removing liquidity, repaying flash loans, and converting all received funds into 24.8 thousand wrapped ETH, approximately 76 million that went into Tornado Cash, which is some shitcoin mixer. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, somebody was able to do this. Somebody was able to create a set of rules that forced all the money out of the protocol contract and directly to their own wallet. Okay, anyways, this is absolutely mind-boggling. Okay, so we're just going to dive into this little piece of an article that relates to this story, right? So this is more details about the hack. So the case was not a technical hack per se, but an exploitation of a design flaw in the governance procedure. All these shitcoins, many of them have these stupid governance tokens, and so many of them get rugged as a result of them. The same governance procedure that put Beanstalk in position to succeed was ultimately its undoing. Oh my gosh, who would have thought? So-called flash loans are made when users borrow massive sums of stable coins without any collateral. That's right. Zero skin in the game, and was able to go and withdraw millions of dollars. Now look, in a traditional trading system, there is something called naked shorting, okay? So essentially, this person was able to go and withdraw all of that liquidity without providing even remotely close the amount of liquidity, if any at all. Okay. Now, in the world of stocks, there's something called naked shorting. Naked shorting is an illegal practice of short selling shares that have not been affirmatively determined to exist. Ordinarily, traders must borrow a stock or determine that it can be borrowed before they sell it short. So naked shorting refers to short pressure on a stock that may be larger than the tradable shares in the market. Okay. So before we move to the next fail, what this has to do with is essentially this person was able to, out of absolutely nothing, gain over $80 million worth of liquidity and pull it out. In traditional stocks, you could never pull this type of shenanigan because, number one, it's been made illegal, and they put circuit breakers in so that actually can't happen. Okay, you can't sell shares you don't own. But this person was able to sell shitcoins they didn't own. Okay? So again, we go back to something we were talking about yesterday. You know, we're not a fan of regulations, but at the same time, there is a reason that you can't pull this shit on Bitcoin. Okay? This is shenanigans. This is fuckery. Okay? There is no need for this. You absolutely can gamble. Okay? But it can be done on a proper platform where you don't get rug pulled. Anyways, I definitely feel for the people, that get screwed in this stuff, but we keep telling everyone, these are not safe platforms. This is not the future of money. DeFi is just a made up term, okay, by a bunch of charlatans, scammers. Yeah. Okay, and the fleecings just keep coming. Anyways, no, your thoughts on this one,
dude? I think you fucking nailed it, Phil. I spot on, and you said something really, really wise, right? Which, like you always do, which is essentially, this doesn't happen in Bitcoin. This does not happen in Bitcoin, right? So don't let these people, and this is why we dedicate an entire portion of this show, because YouTube is literally a sea of shitcoinery and a sea of people that are willing to peddle and willing to make you believe that cryptocurrencies are equivalent to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, no one controls it. The monetary policy, Satoshi figured out how to separate the monetary policy away from humans, They tried to take it back during the fork wars. They failed unsuccessfully, I might add. With all the other shitcoins, whether it's a smart contract, whether it's a DAO, whether it's decentralized finance, which really isn't decentralized, right? It is controlled by an elite group of human beings that have significant influence over that money, right? Whether it's, the deflationary, inflationary policy of Ethereum, of Vitalik wanting to make it proof of stake and never being able to, whether it's Brad Garlinghouse attacking, or the XRP guys attacking Bitcoin because it's not environmentally friendly, right? Or whether it's one of these fucking DAO creators that, put some nefarious little code, a backdoor into that so that they could just drain those accounts. Man, the point is that this doesn't happen in Bitcoin and happens in all the other shitcoins. This is why we cover it. I hope some of you, at least a small fraction, could learn, especially because Phil and I have made these mistakes, and Phil and I would both have significantly more Bitcoin today if we avoided the shit coining altogether, right? And dude, there's that really famous picture, that really famous meme we showed you a couple episodes ago. I'm gonna try to find it. I'll pull it up. But anyways, Phil, what is the next fail?
All right. Here we go. It just gets cringier, man. The central bankers are completely insane clowns, and we just keep getting hosed. Here we go. Let's take a look at this tweet from the Bank of International Settlements. Get ready, Nico. The mental gymnastics are just off the chart. CBDCs can help overcome some barriers facing the unbanked. Right, Augustin Carstens and HM Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, the United Nations Secretary General's special advocate for inclusive finance for development. Okay, I want you to think about that. Inclusive finance for development. Like, see, this is the great thing about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is completely voluntary. It is the most inclusive currency in the world, and these people cannot, because they know that they are completely useless without it. Now, I want you to think about this, because this is really the signal here. They can help some barriers facing the unbanked. And they want to be inclusive, right? But also them, Bank of International Settlements considered the central bank of central banks said on Thursday it was suspending the Bank of Russia, deepening Moscow's financial isolation over its war in the Ukraine. The access of the Central Bank of Russia to all BIS services, meetings, and other BIS activities has been suspended. So the mental hypocrisy that we end up going through from these insane central bankers, I think is detrimental to everyone. These people, they are not helping the unbanked. They are not inclusive. This is an exclusionary system, okay? That's exactly what this is. And of course, Nico, you know me. I had no choice. I had to respond something, right? Like, I get totally triggered by this crap. Tell us in detail how an exclusionary, centrally controlled system, which helped create the unbanked, will somehow help them to be not unbanked, okay? And that is the honest-to-God truth. Their system, their exclusionary system, is what actually creates these different pockets of unbanked people. How the hell are you going to help them? They're not. It's a story, it's a fairy tale that we all watch. And for some reason, there's a giant portion of the population that chooses to believe in this. And for me, like, I actually find it much more uncomfortable to believe in a complete fairy tale from a bunch of psychotic central bankers that are literally buying up the world for fractions of a penny from everybody, essentially stealing it from everyone without anybody knowing it, then take my chances with something like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That everybody participates in, that everybody can have a fair shot at storing their value. Remember, not everyone is going to earn necessarily the same amount of Bitcoin. Everybody has a different capacity for earning. There's nothing wrong with that. We are all different humans. But what's important is that every single one of us, regardless of our intelligence level, our class, whatever the fuck it is, okay, we can store our value equally.
Yes.
And this is what matters. And these people are complete freaking enemies of this freedom.
Because it goes back to what I was saying, and Phil, you did an excellent job, by the way. It goes back to what I was saying yesterday in terms of the central planning ideology of these institutions. Whether it's the IMF, right, where the head of the IMF literally graduated from the University of Karl Marx, right? I wish that could be a joke, but it's not, right? Whether it's kind of the central plan. Think about it. Central banking. It has it in the name. Central banking. Why? Because it's centrally banked, centrally planned, right? Or this idea that millions upon millions upon millions of individuals, and now they have the tool in order to do that without a central party, are able to make better decisions about themselves. And time again, it had showed, right, that that centrally planned things fail. The free market, millions of individuals making their own decisions, does better. But before Bitcoin, that was almost impossible, right? There had to be a central institution. After Bitcoin, these people are no longer needed. And that's why they're literally running around like a chicken with the head cut off, right? Metaphorical headless chickens. But you guys get my point, right? So, and look, I'm going to read you a save to draft tweet, right? Which kind of like encompasses a little bit of what Phil was saying. And it says, politicians weaponize/politicize the money. Also politicians. Surprise countries want to drop that money. Surprise citizens don't want to use that money in the first place, right? Versus Bitcoin, where people use it following their own incentives. No coercion required. Why? Because it keeps your value over time. And these central planners, they need you to use the money that steals from you in order for them to fund themselves and the bureaucracy. But anyways, Phil, I think that was a good bit.
That was definitely good, but I just wanted to add one thing, okay, which it just blows my mind. If you have to tell people that a system is inclusionary, then it's not. I just don't see that.
And why they
fight? And why they fighting? Can participate.
Phil, why are they fighting? Why are they fighting Bitcoin so much and pushing their exclusionary system? Because it's not about inclusion. It's about fucking power, and they hide behind that moral virtue, bro. It is bullshit. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. They make the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoin plebs. And this is volume 10. It just came out. This is volume 11. Every volume has different artwork, but they're scarce. There's only 1,000 copies made per volume. So get your print of Citadel 21 today before they run out. All right, everybody. First meme is brought to us by Ronin, a modern Ronin. I like that. Brad, sell me this Bitcoin. Do me a favor. Write down all the assets you own that could be confiscated. I can't think of any. Exactly. Oof. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Dr. Bitcoin MD, shout out, friend of a show, pictured shitcoiners thinking they're doing something remotely challenging and worthwhile. This is great. For anyone who doesn't get it, this is an amazing series. It's called the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and it's about this young women chess protege, right? But here she's playing checkers, right? Because it's making fun of the shitcoiners. Anyways, Lena Ceesh, you bring the fire, right? Samson Mao, you found yourself an awesome fiance. Good for you, brother. Happy Easter help. The little hodlers find the missing Bitcoin Easter eggs for a chance to win a very special plushie. See below. I'll pick a winner among those who find all 5 Easter eggs. So you guys could do that on your own time. But the point is, let's check it out. It's a cool little... Oh, I found one right here.
Yeah.
1 Easter egg. Oh, I got another.
I found another one.
2. three,
supposed to be
four,
finding them, Mika.
5. I found them all. Anyways, moving on. This is by
Darth
Darth Coin. I identified myself as a psychopathic, toxic coin maxi killing bankers. IMF Bankster. Dude, that is freaking great, man. That's a beautiful piece of art. All right, moving on. Next one by Patrick. Let's check it out. Definitely a fellow pleb. It's time
Fellow
to
memer.
go. Fellow memer pleb, in the trenches with us,
Lord.
fighting the trench warfare. It is time to go. Wait, is my son winning? Always has been. Absolutely hilarious. All right, moving on. Another one by Lena Sheesh. I want to access my money.
Stolen by Sal.
Stolen by Sal. I want to access my money. No. I want to invest my money. No. I want to save my money. No. I want to fix the money. No. Oh, and he changed because he's a Bitcoin Cash supporter. He changed the Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. Wow, Sal. That's some. So not only
he sucks. We shouldn't be showing his memes. Okay.
I didn't notice the last part. Anyways, the fiat surveillance economy, home mining.
That's pretty well done.
So freaking good. Awesome memes. For those awesome memes, I'm going to give this. Can't go wrong with this score. It is an orange special edition open dime. It says
You gave me one.
Yep, I did. On the back it says legal tender on the blockchain in some countries? Question mark. The trolling is great. Shout out MVK. Anyways, Philippe,
All right.
what would you give those memes?
Oh, get ready. Okay, so look. Those were awesome memes. And for those memes, I am going to give it this very rare, or I think it's rare, an awesome sticker by an awesome Bitcoiner, Evan Kaludis. I'm talking about Zeus. That's right. It's an awesome Zeus sticker. Very good high-quality sticker, too.
Good.
It's got like multiple layers on it.
Good scores for some good memes overall. Thank you, plebs. Thank you for joining our Telegram group. Link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review. If you haven't already done so, the link is down below. It's a dank Telegram group. You're not going to want to miss it. It's the official Simply Bitcoin channel. Very cool stuff. And of course, make sure to comment. Help us defeat the shitcoin casino on YouTube. Help us defeat those channels. Try it to help us push the pleb signal. Of course, make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com and our personal favorite, bitcointv.com. They don't censor there because it's Bitcoin TV. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily News.
Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin Honey Badger. Opens up, you put your favorite hardware wallet in there. It also comes in 3 different sizes. This is medium. There's a bigger one. There's a smaller one. Really cool stuff. You're going to want to get this, and you can take advantage of the link down below to get 5% off anything off the CryptoCloaks.com online store. All right, everybody. So if you've been keeping up with this show, I've been telling you that Bitcoin really in the last 6 months to a year has become political. That means that politicians are going to try to embrace it, to try to get elected themselves, right? You have high profile ones like Senator Ted Cruz, right? You have Elizabeth Warren on the other side trying to fight this, right? And you have Governor Ron DeSantis. That's actually he's a potential Republican candidate for president that actually has a chance of winning the nomination. And this guy, right, supports Bitcoin. That's absolutely huge, right? So anyways, the reason I want to talk about this today, because this was huge, first of all. I'm fine with making Bitcoin legal tender in the U.S. That's, I think, the highest profile American politician that has said something like this. But I would also like to remind everybody, right, that remember, Bitcoin is a nonpartisan issue. This is bipartisan, helps both sides, right? Helps the side, the right in the sense that sovereignty, independent, get away from me government, and then it helps the people on the left because it helps the people that get most hurt by inflation, right? Which is the lower end of the economic spectrum. Phil?
And it is inclusive.
It's
right?
very
Like that,
inclusive.
this is what people, like it doesn't have to be sold, right? Like it is
Correct.
inclusive. Anybody can voluntarily join or leave the network.
Correct, right? And so it's very inclusionary. It protects, it helps people that are in different places all around the world that don't have access to a stable currency. So this helps both sides of the political arena. The problem is, right, is that there has been a troubling trend that I'm going to give ourselves credit. It's something that Phil and I picked up very early on. And to my surprise, it was actually mentioned at the Bitcoin conference. I'm going to play a clip of that in a little bit. But anyways, let's check this out because I agree with this article. This is how Phil and I feel about this. No, Ted Cruz, Bitcoin is not anti-leftist. Bitcoin is apolitical. I completely agree with that. Right now in Canada's Freedom Convoy protest, Republican Senator Ted Cruz triumphantly took to the stage to embrace Bitcoin in a recent, highly publicized CPAC event. We've played you that video, by the way, back in the day. In a typically pro-Republican tirade, Cruz blasted his political opponents from Justin Trudeau to Elizabeth Warren to the Chinese Communist Party for opposing Bitcoin because of the desire to control the financial freedom and civil liberties of people. The only problem with Cruz's anti-leftist spin on Bitcoin is that it is dressed up in pure partisan malarkey. Bitcoin does not care about your politics. It is not against the progressive left or the conservative right or the political center. Bitcoin is apolitical and bipartisan. Its decentralized nature means that no entity can alter its network unless it gains broader consensus. If Bitcoin is for anyone, it is for the individual. I completely 100% agree with that. But here's the thing. Bitcoin also has this unintended feature, right? That it tends to shine the light of truth on everything. I suspect that a lot of politicians on the political right and on the political left, they might hide behind certain things, but in reality, their quest is for power. So perhaps what we're seeing is not necessarily a pushback from a lot of the politicians on the left pushing back this idea of, this is better inclusive money. Perhaps they're pushing back because Bitcoin is a threat to them, right? So I agree with this article because this is what Bitcoin actually is, but you can't deny that more politicians on the political left have been against it. Not only have they been against it, we were actually one of the first Bitcoin channels to identify this worrying trend. And to my surprise, it was actually mentioned at the Bitcoin conference. Let's check it out.
So, knowing that there'll be pushback and looking back on the last decade of policy.
Not at that speed.
So, knowing that there'll be pushback and looking back on the last decade of policy interactions between the Bitcoin industry and the broader crypto industry and Washington, certainly where we sit at Kraken, we've been involved in this conversation, but the thing that we've seen start to change the most is the partisanship over these issues, the partisanship over crypto. When the industry writ large started to engage in DC, we seemed better received by those on the right side of the aisle. It was the Republicans that were first welcoming of this new technology and of the industry being built around it. We've started to see that change a little bit. We've started to see some bipartisanship, but it's clearly not there yet. Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin and crypto broadly, it's still not a bipartisan issue. Do you think we're headed in the right direction, or is this doomed to be a polarized partisan discussion?
I think we're heading in the right direction.
All right, I'll pause it there. That's Cynthia Lummis, saying a political answer. I agree. I definitely think that there is more, bipartisan work, right? And Dennis Porter, who's also a content creator, he's on the traditional political left, and I know that he's been making some moves. But the point that I'm trying to make, right, is that I agree with this article 100%. But Bitcoin is shining a light of truth on certain things. So the question that I have to a lot of, the political senators on the left-hand side in the United States, and here's a great website that really shows where everyone stands for: pro-crypto senators, Republican, senators against crypto, Democrat. There's one Republican and there's another Democrat. So again, it is a bipartisan issue. This helps both sides of the political parties, right? But perhaps some people on the political party would rather maintain power than actually help those people that, would benefit from something like Bitcoin. I don't know. And here's the thing, right? This isn't a black and white issue, right? I know that there's Republican senators that wouldn't benefit from a Bitcoin standard, right? But clearly there's a trend here, and that trend is disturbing for me, And at the same time, I think it's a really big deal that a very big mainstream US politician would be open to making Bitcoin legal tender. That is absolutely massive. I'm just concerned, once again, why is this becoming partisan if it helps both sides of the aisle politically? Is this Bitcoin shining the light of truth again? What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, so look, Bitcoin exposes all of our incentives. And the politicians, they're no different, right? They may be close to the money spigot. See, without Bitcoin, it was fantastic because their incentives wouldn't have to get exposed. If they paid enough money, they paid the right people, you never find out what the incentives are because the stories get spun in a specific way and everybody goes on happily ignorant. But with Bitcoin, they can't do this. So the Republicans the Republicans that support Bitcoin for the reasons of quote unquote freedom, if they aren't truly aligned with these personal freedom ideals, it's quickly going to be found out if and when Bitcoin becomes legal tender in the US. In terms of the Democrats, right? Look, I think the beautiful thing, as you've said, right, as we've said multiple times, Bitcoin is apolitical, but that doesn't mean that every single human being isn't going to try to use it in the way that they desire. And that doesn't mean that the politicians aren't going to use it in the way that they desire. So, look, I believe, from what I've seen, I believe that, the leftists and the rightists who require the money spigot and require the money printing, at some point, even if they support Bitcoin, it's going to come out that they're fakes.
But think about and think about how much the modern left wing parties rely on wealth redistribution.
But there are some, right? Some people, right? And again, they may be the less popular platforms. Maybe they don't believe in the wealth redistribution, but those are the silenced ones. I think those are going to be the lefties that come out in really strong support of Bitcoin to say, this really does fulfill what we want. But they're going to be silenced.
The reason I bring this up, Phil, is because that would explain why there's more pushback from the political left in the United States. Because Bitcoin really does, right? Because the left is all about big government, state control. Right? Could that be a reason as well? Right? Because it's like, and then it goes back to Bitcoin shining the light of truth on everything. Would these people on the left, because there is more, that's not speculation, it's a factual thing. Are these senators on the political left more concerned about including the little guy and helping the little guy? Or are they more concerned about keeping power? It applies to both sides, but I'm aiming that question directly to our friends on the left.
As we have this conversation, okay, I'm thinking that we are being a part of the problem between the left and the right. Maybe what we need to do is reframe this as the politicians that are for the money spigot and the ones that are against the money spigot and pro-Bitcoin. I'm serious. Because this way, we can totally screw everyone that talks about the difference between the left and the right, because at the end of the day, all we care about are the politicians that are truly for Bitcoin and not for the money spigot.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, like maybe, I don't know. I get really frustrated when the politics gets dragged into this shit, because look, what people don't understand is that there's a lot of ignorance out there. Right? And there's a lot of people paying attention to the corporate-owned media. So they get swayed by these stupid arguments that make no sense. So I just, anyways, and Bitcoin is already a very niche, it's already a very niche thing. So they're going to be able to, like, I feel like they're going to be able to bullshit a lot. Anyways.
Yeah. No, I agree, man.
A lot of bullshit.
We'll see how this plays out. We're going to be on track. I tell this to Phil all the time. This is going to end up becoming a little bit more of a political channel as time goes by, because Bitcoin is going to continue to become more and more fucking political, right? Which is why we cover so much geopolitics, so much news in that sense. Because, dude, if we really want to separate money from state, obviously politics are involved in that process, right? But anyways, we'll try to make it entertaining. Next one, another example of how Bitcoin fixes this. It helps the individual. Excellent article by Tyler Durden. I think the original it might have been by Sam Callahan. We had him the other day. But anyways, so we'll give the proper credit where credit is due. But anyways, the name of the article on Zero Hedge: the Turkish Liras Freefall and the Bitcoin Parachute. 2021, and we've been reporting on this for quite a while. 2021 was a rough year for the people of Turkey. The country experienced rapid devaluation of its currency, the lira. Things haven't improved in 2022, as the lira has suffered since Russia's invaded Ukraine, as sanctions and export bans have resulted in soaring commodity prices. According to official government reports, Turks are now suffering 54% year-over-year inflation, the highest in 20 years. That is absolutely devastating. If you're not making, as a Turk, if you're not making 54% more of your salary, then you're losing money. You made less money than last year. This is what's happening in the U.S., but not to these magnitudes. How did Turkey get here? To put it simply, since 2012, Turkey has suffered from taking on a large debt burden coming out of the recession. And this goes back to one of Satoshi's quotes. Why does Bitcoin fixes this? The root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currency is full of those breaches. This quote is 10 years old, and look at this. They're doing it once again. Anyways, and what are the consequences of the excessive money printing by the government? It's not the government that pays the consequences, it's the people of Turkey. Anyways, here are 8 ways that the Turkish authorities have tried to combat inflation so far. Price fixing. In mid-January, which we know doesn't work. Why does price fixing not work? Because you take away the profit incentive. If I'm not incentivized by that pursuit of profit, then essentially what you're doing is communism, right? Make this, just because make this, right? And that doesn't work, right? So they dropped foreign reserves, right? They aim at by forcing companies to keep some of their revenues in liras, so not to dump the lira. Turkish Sovereign Wealth Fund recently injected $2 billion, so print even more money, to combat investors hoarding dollars to protect. You hear how crazy that sounds? To combat hoarders, so for the Turkish state to combat its own citizens from trying to save their wealth, announced that automatically, if you had dollars in Turkish accounts, they would automatically be converted into liras to help you. Do you see how absurd? The state money serves the state. It serves no one else. All it does is steal from you. Anyways, how does Bitcoin fix all this? I'll tell you. How are the people of Turkey protecting themselves? Much to the dismay, again, much to the dismay of the president, the people of Turkey did not heed his call to sell all their gold and dollar holdings to protect the falling lira. The Turkish people are instead seeking refuge from the inflating lira in various stores of value like real estate, gold, dollars, and Bitcoin. 39% said that they would invest in gold, 18% that they would hold dollars, 14% said they would hold cryptocurrencies. I would love for those numbers to go up, and I suspect they will go up over time, and let me tell you why with this passage. The fall of the Turkish lira is a prime example of why 13 years ago Satoshi invented Bitcoin. Embedded in the Bitcoin network Genesis block, Satoshi sent a message that this creation was a possible solution to central banking and the easy money policies plaguing the world. Unlike gold and the dollar, the Turkish individual does not need to trust a third party to access to the wealth-preserving asset. No longer do they need a bank account to protect themselves against inflation. On top of that, unlike gold and the dollar, Bitcoin cannot be easily seized by authorities. And check this out. Check what would have happened if a Turk started saving in Bitcoin versus the lira. Check this out. For the last 2 years, Bitcoin has outperformed the lira by 768% compared to the dollar's 100%. So yeah, man, they're crazy. It honestly, to me, reading that, Phil, countries, governments, states have no problem holding their entire populations hostage if it means keeping up their fiat Ponzi game alive to feed the bureaucracy. And this is what I mean by the incentives are not aligned between governments and the people that they're supposed to serve. And this is why the state and the money have to be separated. The incentives are not aligned. The Turkish president literally admitted right then and there that he is literally willing to take to combat hoarders. You mean combat people trying to save money because of the policies that you implemented, printing too much of that money? They trusted in you not to do that. You did that anyways, and them trying to save themselves, you punish them even more by converting money that's supposedly theirs into your shitcoin, of which you printed an infinite amount of, which caused inflation that hurted your people. Like, what the is that shit? It is madness. And there's another example. Satoshi nailed this. He nailed it in the Genesis block. Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. Ever since then, there have been, I can't think of how many fucking bailouts. And I'm assuming there's going to be another bailout here. Sri Lanka, we reported 2 or 3 days ago. Another country going bottom up. Like, dude. And who loses in all of this? The everyday common Joe. They get fucked. While the government, the politicians, no, they're fine because they're at the top of the money spigot, baby. They don't get hurt. So yeah, man, this is what we mean about the peaceful revolution. This is why we talk about how important it is to separate money from state, or humanity will never be free. These things will continue to happen. Why? Because no one's better than their incentives. Phil?
So yeah, as you were going through that story, I thought it was really amusing. If we zoom out, right, he essentially, the president wanted people to hold the ruble. Okay, the lira. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Russia. He wanted them to hold the lira. Okay, and the people instead went out and bought dollars, Bitcoin, and gold. So what that tells you is it's a problem of faith. Right? There is a problem of faith. The people do not trust the governments, rightfully so. Rightfully so. They don't trust the governments, but the governments are demanding that trust. So this is interesting, right? I think this goes back to, and I know it seems kind of like, a little bit hokey, but, people respect people who respect themselves. It's kind of the same thing with the government, right? The people see that the emperor wears no clothes. They see that the government doesn't give a shit about their best interests. So why the hell are these people going to, quote unquote, impoverish themselves in order to supposedly keep the financial system alive?
Dude, it
like,
is...
what are you talking
It
about?
is sickening. It's like they breached that trust because printed more money that was responsible. And then when they fuck up, the state completely gaslights them and says, no. We still need to fuck you because you're not actually allowed to save in the money that's actually going to keep value.
That was the next piece I was going to bring up.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But
I got riled up.
Me too. I'm totally riled up. I'm like, so wait a second. But then they go and they save in the U.S. dollars, and then the government goes and punishes them for as individuals wanting to store their value in dollars.
They will literally steal it from your bank account and automatically convert it to the Turkish shitcoin.
Who does the government work for, Nico? Who's the government supposed to work for?
That's
the
what
people.
I'm saying. It's
Who
not,
does it work for?
And it will never work for the people as long as they control the money. Period. And this is why Bitcoin has to win. Or like, if it doesn't, more wars, more of this bullshit. The incentives are just not aligned. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io. Guys, you can't just store your seed on a piece of paper. It doesn't just work like that. It can burn up. Someone else can take it and write a grocery list on it. Store your seed in the Cypher Wheel or the all-new Cypher Grid. They both come with a tamper-resistant wire, but the Grid also comes with a punch tool. We've got Join Market Web UI version 0.0.5 that was released. That is down below in the show notes. Guys, don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And if you want to stream us sats, yes, you can stream us sats, fountain.fm through the Breeze wallet.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. Before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our awesome sponsor, RepresentLTV.com. Phil and I wear the hoodies every single day. They're super comfy, and you can take advantage of the link down below to get 10% off anything off the RepresentLTD.com store. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails from the central planner, shitcoiners, all of the above. Definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin, and we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
You're either for the money spigot or you're for Bitcoin.